Texting while driving is an epidemic that leads to injury and death that must be eradicated both through increased awareness and legislation. Taylor Sawyer, 18 years old, knew the dangers of texting and driving. Moments before the Utah State University student slammed into the back of a tanker truck at 80 miles per hour. Dying instantly, she texted to a friend just before, "I can't discuss this now. Driving and Facebooking is not safe, ha ha." When you think about texting and driving, is the first thing that comes to your mind those annoying commercials with crumpled cars? That's the first thing that comes to my mind. However, the second thing that comes to my mind is my oldest daughter. Let me explain. When my now 21-year-old daughter was 16 and in driver's education, her instructor used to be a firefighter. He found a video to cover not only the very gruesome results of not wearing a seatbelt, but also the gruesomeness of distracted driving. It was on the evening of my daughter's 16th birthday, and when I picked her up from class, she was in tears. She got in the car, tears still streaming down her face. My heart broke, and I said to her, "What's wrong, baby girl?" She told me what had happened, and some of the gruesome images and stories that she saw and heard, and I tried my best to comfort her, but her view about having to wear a seatbelt and texting were forever changed that day. Most teenagers don't know the laws and aren't exposed to this life-changing material that could change their views about distracted driving and seatbelts. So we need to amplify the awareness and consequences of texting while driving. With more awareness and increased penalties for driving while texting, we can seriously decrease this epidemic that is taking countless lives of so many young adults in our country. First, let's take a look at the impact distracted driving has on the United States as a whole.
Hey everyone, I want to talk to you about the impact that texting and driving or cell phone use in general has on everyone within our community. And I want to talk about the most prevalent issue, which is fatalities related to texting and driving or cell phone use. About 11 teens die each day in crashes that are related directly to texting and driving. And according to the U.S. Department of Transportation, there are roughly 1.6 million crashes that involve a cell phone, and about 500,000 injuries related to cell phone use while driving, and unfortunately nearly 6,000 deaths that are related to cell phone use or cell phone use while driving. And researchers that study distracted driving worry that cell phone use is widespread. It can be widespread because of the age groups are so much younger, and the implications that those can have on heavy congested traffic areas especially. According to about 69% of U.S. drivers between the age of 18 and 64 have admitted to using their cell phones while driving, and the National Highway Safety Transportation Administration concluded that teen drivers under the age of 20 are involved in fatal crashes, and they actually have the highest proportion of accidents and fatalities of any age group. I want to talk to you a little bit about the correlation of drinking and driving compared to texting and driving. Texting and driving is 4 times more likely to cause an accident when compared to someone who is at a 0.8 blood alcohol level, which is the maximum limit for the state of Arizona. So the texting and driving mimics someone who consumed four 8-ounce beers in an hour. And so, I mean, just think about the ramifications of that for a minute on our public streets. Not only do we have to worry now about drunk drivers, but now we have to worry about people that are texting and driving or cell phone use in general. You know, it could be for social media, cell phone calls, or streaming through their music playlists. Anything that takes their eyes visually off of the road can cause a potential hazard. Now that we know how dangerous texting and driving is, we will first look at how we can curb this epidemic through awareness.
So you would think that people would know that texting and driving is dangerous. It can lead to serious injury, but it appears that knowledge is only surface level. If we look at the example given earlier of Taylor Sauer, you can see that she knew it was dangerous to text and drive, but she did it anyways. It's because of what is known as implicit and explicit attitudes. This is talked about in an article by an author named Martinison. She wrote the relationships between explicit and implicit attitudes towards drunk driving. She says explicit attitudes are the attitudes we are conscious of and willing to self-report, whereas implicit attitudes are automatized, and not immediately consciously accessible. What this basically means is that people explicitly believe that texting is dangerous. Most people report that they don't want people texting and driving on the roads, and most people think it should be illegal. But implicitly, the numbers are usually very high for people that text and drive. So this shows a disconnect between the explicit and implicit thoughts, and the important thing to do is to make those explicit thoughts implicit. An article from Obesity, Fitness, and Wellness Weekly shows a recent Cambridge mobile telematics survey of more than 700 drivers revealed 63% of drivers are more afraid of distracted drivers than drunk drivers. So this fear is really big, even more so than drunk driving. So we should look to do what drunk driving has done to try and curb texting and driving. Drunk driving has had a lot of ad campaigns. A lot of them are funded by the Foundation for Advancing Alcohol Responsibility, and their website claims that there's been a 47% decrease in alcohol-impaired driving fatalities since the group's inception in 1991. 47% is a huge number, and it's if we look at what they've been doing and the work they've done to bring that change about, I think if we employ the same sort of tactics towards texting and driving, we can lower the numbers of fatalities greatly. While awareness is very important, we cannot forget how pivotal legislation is to preventing texting and driving.
All right, so regarding the legality in Arizona of texting and driving, it is quite minimal, to say the least. There's only one primary law in action against texting and driving, and it is that of school bus drivers. And by primary law, that is saying that these school bus drivers can be pulled over for texting and driving. This is the only primary law against the offense. The only other law, even associated with texting and driving at this time, is a secondary law, which is against unexperienced drivers, which would be those under 18 years old. Secondary law means they cannot be pulled over for this offense only, but they would have to get pulled over for a second offense, and then they would be cited if they were caught texting and driving along with the other primary offense. So, with these minimal laws against, we have such similar accident numbers between illegal intoxicated driving and texting and driving, between those aged 16 to 29. So it is imperative that we make the legality regarding the two more equivalent to save the lives of many men, women, and children in our great state of Arizona. Beyond police enforcement, we have the technology now in car manufacturers to remind people when their seatbelt's off, when there's a pedestrian outside of the car. So many technological advancements are made to protect citizens, but none have been made to protect against texting and driving. So another law that could be taken would be to mandate these car manufacturers to use their technology for good and warn drivers about the dangers associated with texting and driving.
Did you know that it takes 21 short days to change a habit? Now that you've heard all of the information, what will you do with it? I implore you to put the phone down and to encourage others to do the same. There's not a text message or a notification that can be received or sent that is worth the cost of your life or someone else's. Today is the day that you can change that habit. Texting and driving is dangerous, or worse, deadly. So spread the awareness and encourage your legislators to increase the laws so we can put an end to the epidemic of texting while driving.